First, tell us, what are radio frequency identification chips?
Well, Catherine Albrecht and I discovered quite a bit about RFID, or radio frequency identification, and it's a technology that uses very tiny computer chips. Lenny, some of these are smaller than a grain of sand, and each of these chips is connected to a very small antenna. The combination is called an RFID tag. Now, Lenny, each of these tags has a unique identification number. It's sort of like a social security number for things, and the plan that the big companies are telling us is they want to put one of these RFID tags on every manufactured product on planet Earth. I mean, every shirt, every shoe, every pair of pants, and every car. Even in our passports or driver's licenses, perhaps one day, everything. The plan is to replace the barcode with these. And you may say, well, so what? Well, the idea here is these communicate by radio waves, Lenny. Radio waves that travel out in space through solid objects, things like purses, backpacks, wallets. Well,
Liz, let me interrupt you. What's the difference between anti-theft tags and RFID tags? And what's the difference between an RFID passive transmitter and one which is a smart chip?
Well, sure. Well, they can all be pretty smart, frankly. The passive tags have no battery. The active tags actually have a battery on board and can transmit much further.
How much could one of these cost, a passive tag, to add it to, a consumer product, an individual can of Coke or a sweater?
Well, one day they're hoping it will be so cheap, perhaps even sub 1 cent cost.
Well, how much are they now, the ones that are being implemented?
It depends on the quantity that's being purchased, and of course there are varying reports. But we've heard of some under 10 cents now, which makes them attractive for higher priced items. And in fact, Lenny, we're starting to see these on some items in Walmart stores. And we've heard there are plans to put these on higher priced items like clothing in stores, which is very problematic.
These chips are also being used, what we're talking about here is chipping individual items. So one can of Coca-Cola could be differentiated from the next can of Coca-Cola. And let's talk a little about the tracking of these. Originally, the idea was presented by industry to track items around the store. However, readers which pick up the radio frequency signals, are they going to be just limited to stores, or can they be placed elsewhere?
They can be placed anywhere. They can be in park benches, under sidewalks, in doorways of public buildings, not just retail stores. And in fact, as you may have read in our book Spychips, we uncovered a patent application by IBM that talks about not just retailers using this technology and these readers in retail environments. They suggest the government track people through these tags in public places, and they name the places, including airports, train stations, bus stations, libraries, theaters, sports arenas, museums, elevators, and even restrooms. They actually spell that out in their patent application on file at the United States Patent and Trademark Office.
We heard just last year that the telecommunications companies had secretly cooperated with our government to track communications between American citizens. We found out about it after the fact. There were no protections in place. Are you saying that this RFID technology could work in the same way, that industry could give this information to our government without our knowing about it?
Absolutely, and of course with the Patriot Act, as you know, pretty much any information is up for grabs, and the people supplying it may not even be able to tell that someone has requested or taken this information.
Let's go. Will there be a chip in every car of the future?
That's the plan. In fact, cars rolling off for the 2007 market, major brands, we're talking GM and some other major companies, they're talking about chipping every vehicle that rolls off the assembly line, combining that with a GPS transponder and also a wireless device. And the plan is that cars could be tracked on the road wherever they are at any time because of this transponder that can communicate with satellites. Of course, that RFID tag would have the unique number associated with the specific driver. And there are also plans for these hotspots along major roads, so that when someone drives by in a car, the information about the people in the car or about the car itself could be siphoned to these roadside hotspots and communicated with satellites. And of course, they're planning on communicating with these car customers. And of course, the government has plans to control traffic on the highways, being able to, say, stop and start cars at will, move them around, Of course, they're saying this is for our own safety, to be able to prevent accidents and so on. But imagine if the Department of Homeland Security decides to put an RFID tag in our driver's licenses. We could be driving by at 55 miles an hour, and anyone with this reader device, any government agent, or even a criminal who happened to create a similar device, could read information about us as we drive by at 55 miles an hour.
Well, Liz, as we know, it gets better than this. Now, that problem could easily be eliminated by the use of subdermal implants, and that would be certainly unique, and even if it was read, it couldn't be read without, well, it couldn't be read and used without you being along with it. So what could you tell us about the latest with subdermal implants? We first heard of that with kidnapping cases several years ago, where people, in order to avoid the potential of kidnapping, were chipping their children as well as their pets.
What you're talking about, the VeriChip, is the main one out there for human implantation. Well, of course, the Spychips Corporation is a very scary corporation. They make these RFID tags for human flesh. They're glass encapsulated, and they're injected into the triceps area of the upper arm. Now, only about 100 people have been crazy enough to get this so far, but the company is planning an initial public offering of its stock. It's already filed documents with the SEC, and the purpose is to raise money to chip a whole lot more people. I mean, this company is planning to chip millions and millions of people. That's the plan. And you may say, well, gosh, I would never line up for something like this. There is just no way this product will fly. And I would have agreed with you a few years ago because we thought it was pretty bizarre. But there's some serious backing here. We're talking IBM. IBM is bankrolling this company, and they own, I think it's over 1 million shares of Spychips Corporation. So they stand to gain a lot if this technology is adopted. What's more, Tommy Thompson, our former Secretary of Health and Human Services in the Bush administration, when he left his post in 2004, where did he go? The Spychips Corporation. He sits on their board. Shortly after joining, he went on national television, and he talked about how great it would be for every American to have one of these chips in his arm to link to his medical records. He also talked about replacing military dog tags with this VeriChip. And let me tell you, this is not just talk. There is confirmation now that the Pentagon has actually been in talks with the Spychips Corporation about doing just that. So it's pretty frightening. Another development just recently, the insurance industry is interested. Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey has gotten together with the Spychips Corporation and Hackensack Regional Medical Center, and they're implanting these chips in patients to link to their medical records to make a case for why people should get chips. And I think we're just a hop, skip, and jump away from being maybe forced with a carrot and stick method to be implanted. For example, Lenny, you may say, well, why would I get one of these things? Why would I be crazy enough to do that? Well, what if your insurance company said, we're going to have a chipping clinic here on Saturday, and if you'd like to save 15% on your health insurance premiums, come on down. A company in Ohio called City Watcher has already asked its employees to get chips to enter a secure room. So, if you're talking about employment, that's a big carrot and stick. You go for an interview and they say, by the way, Lenny, we love you, we think you're great, we'd like to hire you, but do you already have a chip, and what is that chip number? Because we need that number in order for you to access doors. But if you don't have one, we'd be more than happy to insert one in your arm at no cost.
Why are spy chips exempt from similar, less high-tech things that the U.S. Constitution protects us from in terms of privacy? How are these things exempt, and why is this booming business going forward full speed ahead behind our backs?
Well, of course, because when consumers know about this, they object to it. In fact, the industry did studies a few years ago, and these were confidential studies, by the way, which they left hanging out on the Internet, and we siphoned those. And they did studies in several countries around the world. And they found that when people knew what the technology was and how they planned to use it, that they objected to it. More than 3/4 of people seriously objected to it on privacy grounds. And they knew things like, they go, well, gosh, they'll know what I'm wearing, they'll know where I am. So they completely made the connection. So the industry realized that in order to get this technology past consumers, they would kind of have to sneak it through, and you're seeing that, like in the credit cards. I mean, they don't send out these RFID-laced credit cards calling them RFID cards. No, they're calling them things like Blink or Easy Pay, something that doesn't connote the serious downsides of the technology.